the DHS has announced that they are going to be closing 2 of the worst immigrant detention facilities. And I want to remind you of how bad these are and also give credit to those who seem to have led to these being shut down. Now, there's a number of different awesome advocacy groups that have been pushing for these and other facilities to be shut down for many years, but also there are some lawmakers who have been pushing for it. Back in March, Representative Ilhan Omar led a letter from progressive US lawmakers urging the Biden administration to sever the financial incentives fueling an abuse-ridden system of mass incarceration by ending immigrant detention contracts with local jails. And in that letter, they specifically mentioned Bristol County Jail, where the Massachusetts Attorney General's office found that officers sicked dogs on migrant inmates and assaulted them with pepper spray, resulting in at least 2 hospitalizations. So look, these 2 facilities stood out as being both really bad and ones that journalists got access to and got information from. Doesn't mean that they're the worst. It means they're ones we found out about.
Yeah.
But they were bad, and so it is good that they are being shut down. I want to remind you of some of what happened at them because Irwin is one that we talked about many times on the program, and I had been left wondering for literally months. Oh, thank you very much for the raid, Lucy Fox. I very much appreciate that. And welcome everyone. We're talking about DHS shutting down some of the ICE detention facilities. So I'd been wondering ever since we did all those stories about the hysterectomies and what did they call the guy? It was they had a terrible name for him, a collector of something. Anyway, were they gonna do anything about this? It's the sort of thing that you would expect that Biden could just do any day, totally on his own. And so finally they did.
Pressure.
Once there's enough, sure.
No, on the other side, he has to punish these immigrants. Otherwise, he's going to lose the Republican support that he doesn't have.
that was the background of their attempt, very briefly, to go back on re-raising up the refugee cap. Sources inside were saying, "Well, I don't know. They're really hammering us on the border. Like, do we really want to seem like we think these are humans?" But anyway, but again, on that issue, and again with Representative Omar, they pushed back and he eventually conceded that they would raise it like back to the paltry level it was at a few years ago. Yes, the uterus collector, thank you. So anyway, at Irwin, one former detainee, Pauline Binham, said she had this is terrible, said she had her fallopian tubes removed without her consent. The LA Times reported on the accounts of 19 mostly Black and Latinx women who underwent or were pressured to undergo overly aggressive or medically unnecessary surgeries without their consent while detained at Irwin. Project South's legal and advocacy director said that we found evidence of sexual abuse, inadequate medical care, lack of prenatal care for pregnant women, a lack of clean drinking water, and rampant use of solitary confinement at the facility. Detained immigrants who have spoken out about the conditions have faced retaliation. That has been a constant. You speak out about this, you can get retaliation, you can be deported as a result of it. And let's also add that much of this abuse predated the pandemic, but once there's a pandemic, you also have a significantly elevated chance of getting sick or dying from COVID if you happen to find yourself in one of these facilities. So there's a lot of bad ones, but Irwin seems to be one of the worst that we at least know about.
Well, that's what you said. You know, the journalists got access to it. People spoke out, and it's very scary to do that. And because of COVID, it was a lot of reasons for the lack of transparency. Wow, we can't COVID. Can't show you what's going on in here. But forced sterilization of Black, Brown, and Native people has been happening for hundreds of years in this country, and it continues. There's a documentary on HBO that a friend of mine produced. I think it's called For Rosa, about sterilizations that happened in Los Angeles County. I mean, it was happening at the county hospitals even as late as the 70s. So this is something that is a method, just like trying to deter people from coming to the border by ripping their children away. This is another method of scaring and terrorizing people. Don't come here, we will abuse you, we will rape you, we will sick dogs on you, we will treat you like worse than animals. Because I mean, it brings me back. I was a social worker for many years, John, and child abuse laws only came into effect in this country when somebody brought a case to the court and pretended the child was a horse. And in that case, they were like, "This is horrible abuse of this court of this horse." And then they were like, "No, it was actually a child. It was a child actually." And then they were like, "Wow, I guess we need to have this child abuse laws. If you can't abuse a horse, then you should." And so this is what we're dealing with now. We're having to say, wait, these are human beings. These are not criminals. That's the thing. These people are not murderers. They're people that are just coming for a new life because we ruined their countries.
Yeah.
Simple.
Well, Look, I'm glad that you brought up the history of this because as is so often the case, our minds think pretty much alike because we also need to talk about, look, the fact that Irwin is as bad as this and that this was going on up until, well, right now actually, because they're only prepping to shut it down, it's still going on, is terrible. It also is kind of what you should expect out of the US because from 1919 to 1952, just California sterilized approximately 20,000 institutionalized people because they were deemed unfit or defective. From 1929 to 1974, at least 7,500 people were sterilized in North Carolina alone, most of them without their consent because the state Eugenics board, which was a thing that existed, claimed they were unfit to reproduce. Many of them were poor Black or indigenous women. The records show that children as young as 10 were sterilized.
Yes, yeah. And there has been recent legislation proposed to sterilize women on welfare. There has been the same legislation to drug test families that are accessing, food stamps. Well, we shouldn't give them money so they can take drugs. Why are you assuming they're criminals? And just the mere fact that somebody has the thought that someone should be sterilized, like you should decide who gets to be a parent. And these are the same people who are pro-life. So they want you to keep the baby, but not if we don't think you're deemed for it. We want to rip out your insides. That way you don't get to have a choice in your matter. I mean, this is why women's bodies have been under attack in this country and many other countries for many years, and why we need to protect it at all costs. They did it to men too, John. They did it to men too.
Yeah, and a lot of the numbers are very recent. This isn't 2013, we've got cases in California. No, but California is great. It's the best. Come on, libs are in control. It's all fine. No, it's not.
There's
anyway,
a lot of hatred here. It's a big state.
It is. It is. This started off as a semi-good news story. Anyway,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No. We were gonna get to this. We had those numbers. It's just, oh God, America. That's gonna be my book eventually. Oh God, America.
But we can't be easily placated. We cannot. Yeah. This is too big of an issue. So it's like, okay, great. Okay, you stop whipping people. You stop ripping out their organs. Okay.
Yes.
Not really. Just there. Just in that one facility. Great. 2 facilities. Oh.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.